Hello, welcome to the Knit Shift episode 45. My name is Laura and today is Monday, March 7th, 2016. Thank you for joining me today. If you're new here, this is a knitting podcast where I talk about yarn and knitting adventures. And if you're coming back, thank you so much for spending a little bit more time with me. I really appreciate it. Show notes for this episode can be found at theknitshift.com. I am on Instagram as Laura Mahalski. I'm on Ravelry as Yarnstormer, and we have a group for the podcast available over on Ravelry. If you do a search for the Knit Shift, you will find us. And this is available on YouTube and iTunes, but I suppose if you're watching that, you already know that, so never mind about that. I have a lot to talk about with you guys today. I have a guest host for part of the episode, and I'm not just talking about my dog, who, if you'll pardon the shaky camera, this is Gracie's favorite perch these days, in the crook of my knitting chair. I put my boyfriend's quilt is there that my mom made, and she just really loves lying there because she's facing the hallway, and let me straighten the camera, sorry for the wiggling. She can have an ear toward the front door that way, so I don't know, I'm just rolling with it. So I don't think I've recorded with her up there, but she is sitting right here more often than not when I sit here and knit, so it makes sense that she's there right now. But anyway, I do have a guest host for part of the episode. I have a work in progress to share with you, and I have a recap of my trip to Pittsburgh to attend the Pittsburgh Knit and Crochet Festival, and I have a lot of yarns to share with you today. And I have details about a new giveaway to share at the end of the episode, so stay tuned for that. First things first, we still have just a little bit of podcast business. There's still a knit along going on over in the Ravelry group. If you would like to make an Antarctic shawl by Janine Acalio, we have a knit along going on right now. It's a paid for pattern. It calls for one skein of sock yarn. It's an asymmetrical shawl. I should have brought mine in. It's in the hallway closet right now, but I forgot to wear it. It's really nice today. You can see the sun coming in through my back door there, and it's really beautiful out, so there's really no need at all for knitwear. But it's a really lovely asymmetrical shawl. We have prizes if you finish your shawl. The designer has very generously donated a copy of one of her patterns. You pick, and I'll draw a winner for that from our the FO thread on Ravelry, and if you are just participating in the chatter, I will draw a prize from that thread as well. So I haven't decided which. I have a lot of prizes in my prize stash to give away, so stay tuned for that. And that knit along continues until March 31st. Pardon me, gotta take a sip of tea. I'm drinking some chai tea, even though it's warm out. I'm really feeling the need for some caffeine. I'm drinking some chai tea out of my lovely Vermont moose mug. I've never seen a moose. I don't know why I shared that, but whatever. So let me pull up my show notes on my phone here. And yes, new giveaway at the end of the episode, so stay tuned for that. I have one work in progress to share with you, and it's the same work in progress as last week. Last week, I showed you that I had finished a sock that is a gift for a coworker who's moving away. This is out of Malabrigo sock in the colorway Arco Iris. I'm knitting it on size 0 needles. I knit it toe up, one at a time, obviously, because there's only one sock that's finished. And it's greens and purples. Let's see if the camera will cooperate. It's a little washed out because of the sunshine in here right now, but it's greens and purples and blues and yellows, and it's so soft. Malabrigo soft is just really cozy. So last week I think I had just cast on, or was about to cast on, the mate, and you can see I have about 2/3 of the foot done. So I did all of this knitting. I knit the toe before I went to Pittsburgh, and then I knit about this much while hanging out with my grandma on Friday afternoon. And then I knit the rest, here and there over the weekend in Pittsburgh. So I'm really hoping I can get to the heel on this tonight. I'm off work today. I don't go back to work till tomorrow. So I'm very optimistic I could get to the heel tonight. I've got a lot of TV to catch up on, not to mention podcasts, which I've mentioned before, I'm always forever behind on watching podcasts. So I'm knitting these on size 0, my Chaigu red lace needles. I love these needles so much. They're nice and pointy. Nice sharp point to them. I really, really like them. They are really the only needle I use for sock knitting. The join is really good. I never, knock wood, but I've only had one needle break on me ever when it comes to Chaigus. And I'm carrying this around in a bag that my friend Lennis made for me. It's a nice drawstring bag. And I have plenty of yarn left over. I think I used about 1/4 of the skein for the first sock, since it is only an anklet, and I will have about half left. And I think it was Quilter Caroline left a comment on my last episode, and I mentioned that this was a gift from my boyfriend, and it's the only skein of yarn he ever picked out for me. And I was kind of lamenting that I wasn't going to knit it up for myself. And she said, well, make sure you put a square in your blanket. And that is a given. With any sock project, I will certainly put some of this in my sock yarn blanket. So that will be nice. So that's it for my works in progress. And I think at this point, I'm going to flip on over to the little guest host segment of the episode. Good morning, welcome to the Knit Shift episode 45. I'm joined by my mom, Dorothy, who, if you are a longtime watcher, you will remember from, April. Episode 7 or 8, 3, 4, I don't know, way back in the beginning. So we are in Pittsburgh. We both converged on it from our respective homes. She twisted my arm to go to the Pittsburgh Knit and Crochet Festival. There was no arm twisting involved. I said, of course.
Absolutely none.
Yeah.
In fact, it was probably your idea.
No, it was your idea. She came to the Pittsburgh Knit and Crochet Festival last year, and so she had a nice time and said I should come next year. So that's what we did, and we each took it. We only went one day. It's a 3-day festival. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we only went on Saturday, and we took classes on Saturday morning, which we'll tell you about. And my mom brought all of her. Was it all of your purchases?
Except for a button.
Except for a button.
Button's in my purse.
Yes, but my mom has all of her purchases, and I have one purchase to show you. So I didn't really I didn't buy as much as I thought I would.
Me neither.
Which is fine, because I've got a healthy stash. And anyway, first my mom's going to show you what she's knitting on before we talk about, and make sure you show it their side so they see the front.
This is the Antarctis that Laura's doing as a knit along, and even though I'm doing it as part of the knit along, that is what's inspired me. I'm not eligible for any of the prizes because moms already deserve so much extra special. You
always put that in the posts on Ravelry. You're like, I'm not claiming any prizes.
I don't want anybody to think that I'm interloping.
She's not getting any prizes. I'm your prize. Dang it.
Well. Anyway, so I'm having fun making the Antarctis.
Hold it up super close.
This is Laura already has a pair of socks made out of this yarn. What do you call it? Yarn pattern or yarn line?
Same colorway.
Yeah, same colorway. It's Sunflower is the colorway, and it's Frolicking Feet is the yarn. And anyway, I'm getting lots of compliments on it. And it made a guest appearance in Puerto Rico recently when we went on vacation. And so every time I wear it, I'll remember that I knitted on it while we were in Puerto Rico.
And it's yellows and kind of a pale. It's like a butter yellow and a bright yellow and what'd you call that green? Kind of a teal green.
It's not too teal. It's more of a combination evergreen and maybe a grass green. Yeah. And then there's brown in there, just like a sunflower. Yeah. In fact, a friend of mine the other day saw me knitting on it, and she said, "Oh, that yarn looks just like sunflowers." And I'm like, "Well, there's a reason why they called it that."
Yeah. And you're using one of those handy needle keeper?
Yes, I had this. I pulled this out at my class yesterday, and a couple of the ladies in the class said, "Ooh, what's that?" I think you did this as a giveaway back early in the podcast. One. Yeah, Laura gave this to me, and I haven't found one yet. I was going to see if they had any at the show yesterday, but I didn't see any. There weren't too many tools at this show. It was primarily focused on yarn, I think.
Yeah, And I feel like I'm not good at shopping for tools at these shows. Like I tell myself I'm going to, and then I'm like, oh, I get distracted by
It was
yarn.
actually on my shopping list. I actually made a little list. I didn't see any carbons either, but I can get them at the local yarn shop where I live.
And I'll keep an eye out for another one of those for you too, because I bought that at my local yarn shop in Virginia Beach.
I just love it. I really love it, and so I've never lost any stitches off of it yet. It works really well.
And I'll put the knit along stuff in here. We're doing the Antarctic knit along through the end of March, so there's still time to play along if you haven't started. It's a paid-for pattern by Janina Kaleo, and there's a thread for chatter, and there's a thread for finish objects in the Ravelry group for the knit shift. And if you want to play along on Instagram, you can use the hashtag TKSKAL for the knit shift knit along. And I'd love to see what you're working on. There's been a lot of people making really pretty stuff. There's gradient ones and multicolored, and some people use striping yarn, so it's fun to see what everyone's doing. And
especially love the gradient ones. The gradient ones really
they're really
get my
pretty.
attention.
And the pattern designer Janina has very generously donated a pattern from her. Sorry, I'm doing something on the computer screen. She very graciously donated a copy of one of her patterns for the finished object thread. So I'll draw a prize from the finished objects thread. So without further ado, we will move on to some of our purchases yesterday. Or we can talk about our classes first. You talk about your class.
Yes, because classes came first anyway. And we opened up the joint. We were there at 8 o'clock. It didn't really start until 9.
If you follow my Instagram, I put a photo up. We got there really early, and we came in the right door. We followed the instructions, because last year you went in the wrong door and had to walk forever and ever.
And I felt like I was racing to get to my class by the time it started at 9.
So we got there really early, and we went to the right door, and we walk in, and there's a security guard and a janitor vacuuming the place. So like we rode the escalator up, and I got a photo of my mom on the escalator and the lady pushing her vacuum, and it was like we were the only people there. Yes, all right, your idea. Mom's idea. And,
although Laura's pretty good at the picture setup her own self.
And the pose was all your idea too, because you were like
a little bit of English on that hip stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, I took a class on, first of all, they didn't have my registration. Just keep this in mind for anybody that ever attends any of these things. They said that you don't really need to bring any paperwork when you check in, but I'm glad I did, because for some reason PayPal did not give them the message that I had paid my entry fee and the fee for the class. But they scrambled. That's why I'm glad we got there early, because they scrambled to hurry up and get everything ready for us. And we got some books as our little thank you gift, books or magazines, several of them, and a skein of yarn and a handy little name tag. Anyway, so I took the class on knitted jewelry using beads, and in the class we had to make one of these, and you knit it. We strung 72 beads onto the needle, and so that was tricky and a little bit time consuming. And then you actually knit just a teeny tiny little, I think it was 12 or 13 rows with every other row is plain knit. Anyway, it was fun to make. And then the whole necklace is with 2 little plain knitted balls beside it. Underneath these are wooden beads. This one is a 1-inch bead, and these are 3/4 inch. And so now that I know how to do them, I will probably go out and buy some of these wooden beads. And they're a little bit time consuming, but they would make a nice little gift, especially if it's for another knitter that would appreciate something like that, I think.
And you crocheted the chain to make the chain that goes through it.
And my boss actually has a lot of allergies to yarn wool, so it occurred to me yesterday, her birthday's the beginning of May, and I thought, well, I could make her something like this, and she would probably flip over it. She would think it was fabulous, and I could make her something like this, and it wouldn't have to come in contact with her skin and cause her any problems.
Even around her neck?
Well, you're not supposed to really crochet the chain. I just did this out of necessity yesterday because I wanted to wear it and have it finished, but usually she uses some kind of plastic cording.
It's like see-through too. It's like transparent.
Yeah, exactly. She had black, but she had black to pass out to us students in the class, but I didn't really want black with this. It's like a denim colored variegated yarn, sock yarn.
Yeah, so, Opal I think is the yarn you had, or something like that.
Yep.
So you talk about some stuff you bought. There were, I don't know how many vendors there were, probably several dozen. It was the Knit and Crochet Festival, but it had joined with the Creative Arts Festival, I think.
Yeah, so it was a combination of there was scrapbooking vendors and quilting vendors and sewing machines, in addition to predominantly yarn and yarn products, sheep products or whatever.
Main driver.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I bought, Laura bought some wonderful yarn, which she'll talk about another time, but I got this body butter by Long Island Livestock Company, and I chose the scent honey almond, but
I didn't smell
you have
that.
to
Let me
smell it. It's really nice.
I love almond smells. I'm kind of having
It was
regrets.
pricey, and I'm used to buying body butter like at TJ Maxx or Walmart for $3.99 or maybe $5.99.
Oh my god, that smells
But
amazing.
this stuff is made from lanolin from sheep and llamas and stuff like
I'm
that.
jealous.
And I
That
thought I'm
smells
just
so
gonna
good.
splurge and buy some really, really good stuff.
While you were looking at that, I was looking at their yarn, which I'll talk about later, but oh, that's really nice. And it's nice because it's like, you know, it's made, it's
all
reading
natural
all
ingredients.
the ingredients, it's like lanolin, coconut oil, although it says co-count. Did you look at that? It says co-count oil on the label.
So I can't see it. Must be a
Grapeseed
typo.
oil, almond oil, vegetable oil, castor oil, beeswax, sodium borate, essential oils. It's all very, like, it's like 10 ingredients, so it's very natural.
The owner of the company was actually there in the booth, and she was very nice and talked with Laura a good bit about their yarn. And she also mentioned that she's a professional sheep shearer, and there was a picture of her shearing some sheep at a show.
See that.
And she
Fun.
travels across the country to do competitions and stuff like that too. But she was.
It's such a limited market for people who do that and do it well, probably.
I would think so, yeah.
You have to do an apprenticeship and all that.
And it's named Long Island Livestock Company, and I asked her if she's actually in Long Island, and she said yes, they are. So.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll get quickly to the other. I bought 2 skeins of this yarn. It's Unplanned Peacock Studio. And it's called Twinkle Twist. It's black with a little bit of gray in it, a little bit of sparkle, not a whole lot of sparkle. But working on this Antarctis, it dawned on me that I should have something that's kind of a neutral, but I wear a lot of black. I have a lot of black pants and stuff like that, and tops that have black in it. Oh, like present. And yeah, I thought it would be nice. So the pattern that I picked out, I think, is called Surf. I'm terrible about remembering names of the writer of the pattern, the creator of the pattern, but it's somewhere in my suitcase. And if I get a good progress on it or something, I might share it later.
It looked like it's asymmetrical, right? And it's stockinette with interludes of like eyelets, and then it has a lacy border. It looked very pretty. And this is a superwash merino nylon with some stellina, so it's black, and there's kind of some hints of gray. You can kind of see that one gray thread right there.
Which would keep it kind of interesting looking instead of just a solid black whenever I make the shawl.
It's hard to get black to show up on camera, but
yeah.
There you go. So, and you bought 2 of these.
Yeah, I got 2 because the pattern calls, I'm going to make it in a large, and the pattern called for 560 yards, and I think there's only 400
so you've got 800 yards left.
So I could do something neat with the rest of it too. We'll see. And that was it, and I bought 1 button, and that was all I bought. So, but it was fun to be there with my daughter.
It was fun. We sat and we I'll talk about my class later, but I took a yarn dyeing class, and you know, the classes went until lunchtime, and then we walked across the street. We were going to go to a Euro shop, and then it was closed, so we went to a pub right there, and it was perfectly. You had really good soup. My mom's fighting a bad cold right now, so she had soup and a grilled cheese, and I had in Pittsburgh. I had a Pittsburgh salad, which if you are not from here, fries go on salads in Pittsburgh.
It's like their trademark.
It's kind of a thing. So I was like, well, I'm home, and I was born and raised here. We lived about 20 minutes east of the city till I was about 10, and then we moved south of the city to be closer for my dad's job, and they moved away my senior year. Was it my senior year, or was it after I went off to school? It was after I went off to school.
It was after you went off to school.
Yeah, they had to move again for my dad's job, so I haven't lived here since I was 18, so it feels like home, but it also doesn't in a weird way. But I digress. But anyway, I had a salad with chicken and French fries on it, and it was pretty good. So it was a nice little break, and I had a good beer. And then
just a little aside, if you ever want to experience a Pittsburgh salad and you're not in Pittsburgh, Wendy's, their grilled chicken salad, and buy a little small side of fries. Yeah. I do that periodically, and it's really good. Just add a little fries. So if you want to experience Pittsburgh salad,
yes, it's not hard to do it at home.
And Wendy's are everywhere. Even Puerto Rico, I can testify.
Yeah. So I hope did you go to a Wendy's in Puerto Rico?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was feeling a little judgmental.
And I rarely go to them here because I'm not a fan of their hamburgers.
Yeah.
But their salads are pretty good.
I like it. By the way, we have a laugh track. That's my dad over there, and the other side, he's making a face like he's rolling his eyes at me. But my dad's in the room too, but he's being quiet-ish. Now he's making faces. Anyway, I'll tell you about one of my purchases. I was taken in by, honestly, I can talk more about this another time, but if a booth has like yarn right on the walkway, I feel like I'm more apt to stop at it, especially if it's stock yarn.
Something psychological.
And this was a one with, they had like hanging baskets. It was like wooden baskets in layers. And I had to stop and look. And so this was Shirsty Cat Designs. And this is her Just Fingering 100% superwash merino, 490 yards. And that feels like a lot of yardage for 100 grams, but it doesn't look super thin.
Mm-mm.
You know, it looks pretty squishy. And the color, I'll have to show this again at home when the color's better, because we're in a hotel room and the lighting's not great. And this colorway is called Starman. And I'm not especially a David Bowie fan or anything, but I just loved it because it was kind of out of the blue. Colors different than I normally do, but it's kind of an overall kind of a dusty gray. And then there's pops of cantaloupe on this side. It's just not doing it justice here. And then there's kind of like this awesome gray purple, which I think I talked about in a recent episode. I'm in a gray purple phase, so it's really pretty. And there's even some pink speckles in here, so right there by my finger. So anyway, I thought there's no nylon in this, so I don't know if I would make a shawl or what, or if I would use it for socks even though there's no nylon, but I really like it. So anyway, but I bought some minis, and I bought a couple other skeins of yarn, which I'll talk about later. So I think that's about it for us today. We're gonna go to breakfast, and then we're gonna go our separate ways and drive home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a really fun weekend, and we had dinner with my grandma Friday night, and then yesterday we had a pizza party at the pizza place. We've been having family pizza parties.
The only one in town as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, how long have you guys been getting pizza from there?
Well, I met Daddy in 73, so since 1973, but it's been in existence before that.
Yeah, it's been around a long time. It's called Minio's, so it's really good pizza. So, and we ate there, and they've kind of expanded it throughout the years. It used to be just the one counter with like 4 or 5 tables, and then they bought the business next. Is it another business?
I think too. They've expanded, and they bought
next door to make an ice cream shop. And they have like a bottle shop, like you can buy 6 packs, because Pennsylvania's liquor laws are weird. But anyway, and then they bought the next place over, and they have like a proper bar in there now, and like actual sit-down restaurant seating. So we ended up having the ice cream shop to ourselves. Like they set up tables in the middle, and we just kind of had the whole room to ourselves. So it really felt like we were at home
12 of us there.
No, was it 14?
Well, you and me and Daddy and, Mimi, and then, you're right, it was 13 actually.
13.
And then Aunt Wheezy, so that's 5 plus 4 and 4 for Doug and Jessica's families.
Yeah, so it was a really nice time, and it was just a really good weekend, and hopefully you're feeling better soon, and you'll go to the doctor tomorrow.
We all got a lot of sleep last night. That makes a big difference.
Yeah, we were asleep before 9 o'clock, like no joke.
Mm-hmm.
I never go to bed that early, so. All right, well, I think that's it from us. So without further ado, we will see you. Well, I don't know when you'll next be on it, but
I'm always on the other side of the camera watching, just like everybody else.
All right, well, bye.
Bye.
So that was my guest segment with my mom. We had a really nice time in Pittsburgh this weekend. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh and went off to college, and when I was at college, my family moved away, and they were in Cincinnati, and they kind of moved all over after I left home, so to speak. So Pittsburgh is home, but it's the more and more time that goes on, the less it feels like home. And I feel like, I really feel like Virginia is home now to me. So but it was really nice to go back and see family. I drove up Friday, and I spent a few hours with my grandma, and just visited with her at her apartment, which was really nice. And we went out to dinner with my parents when my parents got to town from their home in Ohio, and that was really great. And then Saturday was the Pittsburgh Knit and Crochet Festival, which was the whole reason I was there. And it was just a really nice time. We each took a class, which of course my mom and I just told you about. It feels, obviously you're watching it all in one segment, but I'm trying to remember what I talked about when I filmed with my mom yesterday. So I won't belabor our talk of the festival, but I do have my yarn that I dyed in my class. I took a class with Jennifer. I'm going to mess up her last name, so I won't say it, but she's the dyer behind Holiday Yarns, and it was a really, really wonderful class. It was about 3.5 hours on Saturday morning, and there were 12 of us in the class, and she was very open and in talking about the dyeing process and sharing information, and which I appreciate because it's got to be a very competitive market out there for dyers, and I really appreciated that she said, the more the merrier. I want to teach people, and she mixed up all the dyes. She gave us very loose outlines of, the process, and we talked about kettle dyeing, where you're dyeing in a pot, versus painting the yarn, which is what we did. So we had tables that were covered in plastic wrap, not plastic wrap, but like the plastic drop cloths that you get at Home Depot, that kind of stuff. And so there were 2 ladies in the class who basically wore hazmat suits, which was kind of awesome. They were kind of tearaway paper hazmat suits, but kind of hazmat suits just the same. And I brought an apron, which I felt good about because the dye was very easy to get it everywhere. So if you follow me on Instagram, you saw some of my photos, but I kind of went for a speckle yarn, and we each got to dye 2 skeins of yarn, or there was DK weight, sock weight, and roving, and you had your pick of 2 items among those 3. So I chose 2 skeins of sock weight, and I originally was going to dye one skein one way and the other skein the other way. The other colors I had in mind, but it just got to the point where, I felt like class was, we could only have so many people dye yarn at one time, so I decided to do both skeins the same way and, just do 2 of the same and have enough yarn for a shawl. So that's what I did. I speckle dyed my yarn. A lot of people before me were painting the whole skein, and I kind of opted to just kind of speckle it because I just wanted to see what it would look like, not knowing anything about dyeing. So I just kind of splashed dye in a really limited fashion. I kind of kept my finger. It was like the like the bottles you use for hair dye with the tapered point, and I just kind of held my finger over the point of it and barely let dye out at any given time. So this was the end result. As you can see, I used pink and black, although black really faded to gray. And if you saw my photos on Instagram, it was much more vibrant on the table. Once it was steamed, the color really set and was not quite as vibrant, which is actually fine with me. And I used pink and black mostly, but I also had some blips. I put some purple in it. There we go, purple, and I also had some green, just a hint of green here and there. I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. I have no idea what it will look like knit up, and I know it's not perfect because I'm trying to find, this is how knitters are. We always point out our own mistakes, but there certainly were enough places where I know it's like all white for probably several feet of yarn are probably just white and there's no speckles in it. But for a first foray into dyeing, I did purple, blue, and green speckles. Here's the other skein where you can see some blue, and then there's a little green. So I'm really thrilled with this. This is 400 yards of a merino nylon blend. Yeah, I'm just really pleased with this. So I think I will probably knit these up into a boneyard shawl or a simple lined shawl. I want something pretty simple to just really see the yarn for what it is. And I can make it really big because I have 800 yards. So I'm so excited about this. This was really fun and well worth it. And if you ever get the chance to take a dyeing seminar with her, I highly recommend it. And I will link to her in the show notes. I don't think I have her business card with me right here. I have every other business card from the weekend, but not hers. But again, it's Jennifer from Holiday Yarns, and she's, I think, in Syracuse. Syracuse. So that was the first part of the day. And then afterward, my mom and I had lunch. And then we had enough energy to go shopping in the marketplace. And my mom went in with a list, and I did not. She, we already talked about this in our segment together. She did not find the needles she had hoped to find. She did find the yarn, of course, she was looking for. She got 2 skeins from Unplanned Peacock. I didn't really have a list. I just kind of wanted to see it because I had never been to this marketplace before. And we both said, we were going to walk through the whole place before we bought anything, but that never happens. It never does. So I showed you in the previous segment the skein of yarn I bought, but the light was so poor in the hotel room, I thought I would show it again. This is, again, Shirsty Cat Designs, Just Fingerings in the colorway Starman, 490 yards, so a really generous skein. And you can see there's like these orangey cantaloupe shades to it. And purple and blips of pink in there. And here's the purple end that I really love. So yes, very, very happy with this. That lighting should be a little better than in the hotel room. So actually, the first thing I came across and purchased were a few minis from Lattes and Llamas, and their website is lattesandllamas.com. And they had some mini skeins for a very reasonable price, and they were selling them with the plan to, you could buy one and knit a French press cozy, but I don't drink French press coffee. I don't really drink coffee at all, so I just picked it up as a way to remember their shop name. And these were the two minis that I got. A really lovely green, and then this tonal, or this multicolor blue and red and white. It felt kind of patriotic, even though the blue it's coming up blue, but it's really more purpley blue, I would say. And these are really generous. I mean, they're huge. So I'm very excited to put these into my blanket and then share some of these as minis with other people. Oh, and before I forget, I have the Shirsty Cat Designs card. She had tons of beautiful yarn, and it's shirstycat.com. I really struggled with picking out just one skein of yarn because I thought it was so beautiful, but I really was trying to mind trying to be conservative, and that way I could buy a couple things from, buy several things from several vendors rather than multiple skeins of yarn from the same vendor. So my next stop was a booth called From Yarn Culture, which is a local yarn store in Fairport, New York, which is outside of Rochester. And this is their information. You can see that it says they're curating a collection of artisan yarn from around the world. Now featuring Uncommon Thread, Rosy Green Wool, Eden Cottage Yarns, Hedgehog Fibers, Kismet Fiberworks, Woolfolk, and more. I wish they had had Eden Cottage Yarns, but they did not. They had the Uncommon Thread, and they had some Hedgehog, and they had Kismet and Woolfolk. And I just thought this would be a really dangerous local yarn store because they really clearly have a fancy taste in yarn, and here's their information on the back. Oh, you can shop online, yarnculture.com. There you go. And there's a map of where they are located. So I kind of did one of those, I was walking in one direction and then I saw the sign that said Uncommon Thread and I went, "Arr!" and turned myself around. So I've heard Danny from Little Bobbins talk about Uncommon Thread in her podcast before, so I decided to buy a skein and see what the fuss was about. So this is what I bought. The colorway is Wilted Rose, and there's the label. It's 400 meters of a 100% superwash merino wool. I would love to knit a hat out of this. I think this would just be so beautiful. It's just such a lovely tonal pink. Just a really lovely rosy, kind of a muted magenta, I guess you could say. But I'm thrilled with this, and I'm so happy I got it. And of course it's hand dyed in Britain. And their website is theuncommonthread.co.uk. That would focus. That would be great. There we go. So, what else? Oh, one more purchase from the festival to share with you guys. My last purchase of the day was one I really thought about long and hard. my mom and I kind of went through the aisles in a very normal, logical fashion. And in the far corner of the vendor market was the Long Island Livestock Company. The dog is snoring behind me. I really hope you cannot hear it. She's been glued to my side since I got home last night. She is definitely a mama's girl. And her head, I'm going to pardon the wobbling. If wobbling cameras bug you, you might want to look away for a few seconds. But her head is literally in between the cushion and the back of the couch. I really don't understand how that's comfortable. I really don't. Anyway, so my last stop of the day was the Long Island Livestock Company. And here's their card. They are on Long Island, as you might expect. And it was probably the most beautifully, I hate the word curation because it's such a vague term, but it was the most lovely and thoughtfully put together stand. I feel like they had a double wide stand. It was a really spacious booth, and they just had it decorated in a really lovely way. And they grow their own sheep, and the owner shears sheep. She's traveled the country as a sheep shearer, and she decided to go into this business and grow her own sheep, raise her own sheep, and have the wool, shear the wool and process the wool. I believe it's processed in the United States. Let me look here. They raise llamas, and so I really lingered at this booth because I even looked around and then took a walk and came back because I wasn't sure what I wanted. Alpaca generally makes my nose itch because of the little fibers that come off. And the owner overheard me saying that, and she had this most exquisite alpaca silk blend and this lovely natural kind of, they had it in gray and they had it in kind of a heathery brown. They were just gorgeous. And she said the silk might cut down on the floofy fibers, so to speak. That's my term. That's not her term. Floofy is a very, very technical term. And I walked around and thought about it, but in the end, it was the Romney wool that really spoke to me. This is a natural 100% Romney wool, and I will show you the cards. And if it's from one of their animals, they have the label on it that says who it was from. So this is from Twin Sheep, Jack and Jill. And then you open up the card. And their website is lilivestockco.com. And you can see it's 100% Long Island grown and shorn. And they even put on the skein how many skeins of yarn they got out of this batch. So this is skein number 3 of 14. And it says, Long Island Livestock Company is the most diverse supplier of raw fiber, roving, and natural yarns on Long Island, and is committed to the well-being of camelids and all other livestock. Our award-winning llamas and fleeces speak for the quality of the fiber we have to offer. The fibers are all shorn by owner Tabitha Hobbold McGee. And then there's a note from Tabitha, and it says, contributors, Jack and Jill. And it talks about the animal, the breed of yarn, and, the yardage and all that. So this is really squishy. Like, you can just see how bouncy it is. So it's 400 yards. And I just thought this would be a really nice treat to make myself something, probably a shawl. And I'm so excited about this. It's just so fluffy and bouncy. So this might be my favorite purchase, because it's a real treat. So that was it for my purchases from the festival. As I drove home from Pittsburgh to Virginia yesterday, I was all by myself. I had a long time in the car, and I started realizing that I would be going by Frederick, Maryland, and that is home to a really nice local yarn store called the Knot House. And I stopped at a rest stop in Pennsylvania and plotted out how far out of the way it would be to go to the Knot House, and it was like 5 minutes off the interstate. So I said, and I made sure the store was open, so I said, I'm doing it, I'm gonna go. And I've been once before. I went in May with Kate and Amanda. Kate has the Stitch Addiction podcast, and Amanda has a podcast called Not a Podcast, and she's the dyer behind Lammy Toes, which is a wonderful shop. And we went after Maryland Sheep and Wool because the Knot House was having a trunk show, and they had the dyers behind Yoth there, Y-O-T-H, and they had all sorts of indie dyers represented, and I was curious to go to the store and see what they had when it was not the trunk show. And it was still an exquisite shop. They have a really wonderful selection. They carried Jill Draper makes stuff. They carried Spun Right Round, Duck Wool, Western Sky Knits, and I can't even remember some of the other ones. They carried a lot of stuff, and it's in this lovely historic downtown area, and it's in what had been a house at one time, the shop. So I really recommend checking it out if you're in the DC area. If you can drive, 45 minutes, an hour out of your way, it's well worth a trip. So I decided to get myself some more treats there. So let me dig out the card for the business. So here's the Knot House's information. And I got myself a skein of Spun Right Round sock yarn. This is her superwash sock. It's an 80/20 superwash merino nylon, and it's 400 yards, and the colorway is Dreamcatcher. And you can see it's this lovely squishy gray with blue speckles and black speckles and some orangey rust speckles up here. I'm just really excited about this. So this was a nice treat for myself. And the other thing I bought were pom-poms. She had a basket of pom-poms, and they were all squished up, and I bought 3. I bought a brown and 2 natural ones, and they were all kind of squished up, and I had only picked out these 2. And she said, about fluffing, the owner or the worker said, about fluffing them, right? And I said, no, what do you mean? And so they're attached to strings. And so she did a little bit of this, and it fluffs up the pom-pom. I had no idea. And it looked so good fluffed up that I went back and I picked up another natural one. So now all I need to do is knit the hat for this to go on. Details, right? So I'm very excited about this, and this is making me really motivated to, it's very kind of relaxing to fluff a pom-pom, I have to say. There you go, so fluffy. So I just need to knit a hat. This is motivation to get that going. So that plus one other thing was a purchase at the Knot House. So I think that brings me to the end of my stash enhancement, quite a bit. There goes my plan to buy less than I knit. I want to send more yarn out than I buy it, but this really put a step backwards in that process, but meh, details. So the only other thing I wanted to share with you guys is I decided to have a giveaway because I'm coming up on a year pardon me. I'm coming up on the year anniversary of my podcast in just a few weeks. So I don't remember the exact date I first recorded. I think it might have been March 21st. I'll look it up and be sure next time. But and I can't believe it's been a year already. I think I've reached 500 subscribers on YouTube. I haven't been on my computer because of all the traveling, but I'm pretty sure I finally hit 500 subscribers. So between that number and the 1-year anniversary, I decided to have a giveaway for a skein of yarn. Just to celebrate and to say thank you for watching and spending time with me and messaging me on Ravelry and just generally being awesome. So thank you so much. So I will have a thread in Ravelry with the details of this, but this is the prize. It's a skein of Lakes yarn and fiber, and it's a DK, it's Loxa DK, 100% superwash merino, 280 yards, and it's this beautiful pink colorway called Hansa. And it's so squishy. Look at that beautiful twist on that yarn. Ugh, so pretty. I seem to have a thing for pink right now, don't I? Here's the uncommon thread. So this would be plenty for a beautiful hat. You could even get cables, put cables in the hat. And it's just, it's super wash, but hand wash is recommended. So this, I think, will be a really lovely prize to say thank you. And if you want to be entered into a chance to win this, here's what you have to do. You have to be a member of the Ravelry group for the podcast. And I will have a thread after this episode is live where you can enter, and it's a 2-part prompt. I'd like you to answer 2 questions. One would be, what is something you've enjoyed on my podcast so far? And the second part of the question would be, what would you like to see on the podcast? That would be really great feedback for me as I go forward with this, because I always would like to get feedback, good or bad. So please let me know what you think for those questions, and I will have this open, I will say, for 2 weeks or the next 2 episodes, and then I'll probably draw a winner after this in a couple weeks, like after 2 more episodes of filming. So hopefully I will have a winner by early April. So, because I know for me, I don't watch podcasts in a very timely fashion, so if I can give a little more window of a time to let people enter, hopefully that will help if you're slow to watch podcasts. And I think with that is probably everything I have to share with you guys today. I'm sorry it was a little thin on the actual knitting content, but I'm hoping that all the fun stash enhancement Yarmy goodness, that it makes up for it a bit. So thank you again for watching. Thanks for spending time with me, and I hope you have a fantastic week and a lot of knitting time. Take care. Bye.